Going down in a few more seconds. Femininity Real Podcast. Let's go.
What's up, fam? It's your boy, Dr. Mike, and it's almost that time to get real, raw, and relatable. Looking forward to talking to y'all soon. Peace.
What's up, everybody? It's your boy, Terrence. Welcome back to another season of Relentlessly Real Podcast. So excited to have you all back. We got a lot of great stuff. Check us out.
You're now listening to The Real.
Man, I appreciate them dudes for talking about
The Raw.
Wait, they were talking about
The Relatable.
That's exactly what I've been going through.
The Relentlessly Real Podcast.
All right. So, welcome to the Relentlessly Real Podcast, where we discuss real, raw, and relatable topics. Thank you for taking the time to listen to our podcast today. We're going to kick this off with some introductions. My name is Moisturizer.
Oh, that's so...
I said it.
Ew. My name
Go ahead. Why don't you like it? I don't know why you don't like Moisturizer.
Please.
It deserves a pause.
What is your name, random man with a mic in their hand? Pause. What's your name,
My name
sir?
is Terrence. It's
Okay,
Terrence.
I'm sorry, guys. He has a really silly microphone that he's using for whatever reason. We also have, at the beginning of this Women's History Month, we have some fine young ladies that have decided to come on, and we've asked them to come on and make the conversation go a little higher. And so, if you don't mind introducing yourselves, please. Whoever wants to go first. Okay.
Okay,
Somebody.
cool. I am art agitator Calida, and I am the big sister of Moisturizer.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
you
great
wouldn't
to
know
be
it by the
here.
sunglasses she has on right now, but she is the bigger sister. Okay, there we go. All right, so we have Miss Calida Jones on here, and we also have. I don't know. There might be a little lag. Go ahead. Go ahead, LJ. I'm sorry.
Green.
There was a little lag. Sorry.
Lejanika Green.
Okay, cool. So she said Lejanika Green, guys. I'm sorry. There's a little lag on her end, so I'm going to try to see if I can help troubleshoot that with her. But we are going to jump right into the show as well. Listen, guys, we had an amazing episode last week talking about a whole bunch of different topics, and this week, Terrence is going to kick off the question of the day. So, Terrence, this is on you, man, because I didn't want to touch this. Whatever this is you're about to say or send, I don't want to touch this with nothing. I'm about to say something inappropriate. I'm not going to touch it at all. Go ahead. You hit it with the topic, bro.
I feel like it's Women's History Month, so I just feel like I thought this was very suitable way to start off Women's History Month. And the question of the day is, I came across this post, and you could actually scroll through some of the comments, John. It says, I think we is getting sassy. I woke up with an attitude for no reason. So this is posted by a man. And this was really good. So the question of the day is, look at some of the comments that are made. Do we as men do some of these things? Like, what are some things that we do that might be considered feminine or not as masculine? Like some of the comments a guy posted, because at this point, you might be telling the truth, bro. Somebody else posted, it's a pic from earlier today. What's happening to us? And he's drinking the most fruitiest drink with a palm tree in it. Somebody said they ain't been right since them hoochie daddy shorts. And then another guy said, yeah, because I texted, not you ignoring me, and followed up with, it's given blocked, and I'm ashamed. Bay said she was going to beat my ass the other day, and I said, and won't to F. And so these are men posting, by the way. These are men posting these comments. A guy said I had to catch myself was at work singing "Don't Play with It." Turn my phone off for the rest. Turn my phone off for the rest of the shift. My husband was watching Love Is Blind and yelled, "Talk your shit, King." So, another guy said, just caught myself saying, I find it real funny. How? ... What else? My girl caught me with some wine and gonna say, you drinking my shit, and it said, and is you big mad?
Okay, cool. So what's the question here, T?
So the question is, what are some things that you as a man say or comment that could be considered feminine? Like, do you say any of these normal phrases? Like, like did, and like, I just thought it was funny because I'm like, oh shoot. Somebody posted the other day that men smoking hookah is feminine.
And I heard that today.
I was like, wow.
Men smoking hookah is feminine?
It's feminine.
Then I'm very, very, very feminine.
I just said, like, I'm just realizing.
What's feminine? What's feminine? What are they saying is feminine about it, though?
Yeah, what's feminine about it?
It's just like smoking a cigarette, or I mean, not to like just.
No,
so
it's not.
I'm not endorsing. No. I'm not endorsing smoking cigarettes or weed or whatever else. But I'm just saying. Why do you say it's not?
Because it's not. I mean, you're talking. So a cigarette, you hold like this.
You do with your fingers. Oh, okay.
Right? And then a hookah, you hold like this.
Oh! First of all, don't you let your hands ever make that action ever again while you're on in front of me. You don't even know how to do nothing with a hookah, okay?
I know.
All right. Oh my God. Oh my God. I am so disgusted.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
I am mortified at this
We did
present
not
moment.
set the community agreements for this conversation.
Yeah,
So.
well, we're gonna. I guess this. Okay, guys, if you don't know, this is my sister, and this is not okay. So, yeah, I can see how that would be inappropriate. I do. You know what? I have lately been saying it's giving, and I have to do better with that. I'm not gonna lie to you, Terrence. That there, I do struggle. It's giving this, it's giving that. I'm like, oh my God, I'm a woman. I have to like literally hold my tongue, to stop from saying certain things. It's giving, yeah, it's tough. What about you?
I feel like I say it making like fun, but the fact that I say it so often, is, at that point, you're not making fun.
It's habitual.
This is who you are. Like,
Yes,
I think it's who you are.
Who you are. Like,
yeah.
Like
You might struggle with the
and did was like.
oh gosh. So
I don't like your neck roll either. I think that's another part of what's the issue. I think
It's
when
the tilt.
You're doing a little tilt, yeah, and I'm like, girl, stop stop playing with me.
Fun, but I'm like, all right, I gotta watch it. Like, like
I think the fact your hat makes it worse. Just by the way, that's what makes it really. It's the backwards hat and
the tilt
and the tilt, and then he's like, girl, stop. I was like, you're a grown man. Sorry, Mike, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Wow.
No, I think this conversation is hilarious because I actually did say something like this in a text message earlier. I said and will, right? Like in the conversation. I said and will in the text message. And when I said it, I was like, that's a little weird. Like it made me feel weird after I sent it. And I was like, okay, let's move on. Let's move on.
Your name is Michelle for the rest of this podcast.
Michelle.
That's very all right. That's problematic. I think in general we should not try to take over these words, but it's tough because it's becoming something that's so prevalent. Everybody's saying, these type of words, these phrases, and it's something that's crazy. And so one thing I wanted to ask before we go to the next question of the day, Calida, how many times do you wear your clothes before washing them? We asked this question last week, and we had some various answers, but how many times do you wash your clothes before wearing them again? Like, do you wear your jeans like 3 to 5 times and then wash them? Because it's not a hygiene issue here. We're just really just trying to get to the bottom of this, correct this case.
I wash my jeans after the second wear.
The second wear.
Mm-hmm. But
Okay.
I have a different reason. Like, probably women have a different reason. Like, I wash them because they stretch from wearing them all day, and if I want them to be fitted, I need to wash them to shrink them a little bit. So,
I wash mine.
shut up, Terrence.
Oh, you want to be fitted? You want to be fitted?
Yeah, 'cause they get tight. You want them to stretch, like, you know.
I wash my
Yeah.
no, Terrence, no. I wash my shirts daily,
Mm.
but I also like I think most women perspire. So it's not great to put it on for a second go. You
Mm.
know, it's not giving fresh and cleanliness. So
Right. Right.
but I also have
Yeah.
a washer and dryer right there. So, you know, it's different for everybody.
Well, that's why I had to name this my podcast name for today, Moisturize. I don't know. I don't normally participate with Terrence's foolishness where he changes his name every episode, but I had to today because literally since we talked about the whole face wash thing, every time I like go to wash my face, I'm like, I'm actually doing this all the way wrong. And I was on the phone actually
You
talking to my
are.
sister. Shut up. I was on the phone talking to my sister, and I'm like, yo, I gotta go get some moisturizer because I was like, everybody said I've been washing my face wrong. And I literally went and bought some moisturizer. Haven't used it yet because I'm still trying to figure out, do I want to really go all the way with this?
I
Or
want
am I
to. We should get a report next week. I want to know.
I
What
don't
the
want to
experience was
commit.
like.
I feel like I've been
You
washing
gotta
my face
commit.
I've been washing my face for 30 plus years. This is a big
Wrong.
change.
No, but that's not
Wrong.
washing your face.
He said
Moisturizer.
wrong.
You actually have never washed your face.
No.
My face is dirty.
But
What have I been
moisturizer.
doing? Have I been pushing the dirt from one side to the other side? Is that what
Yeah,
I've been
just
doing?
shifted. Just shifted. Just,
Yes.
Wow.
that's all.
Thank you guys.
need a
And,
cleanser.
and let this be very
Cleanser.
Need a
clear on this
cleanser.
here Women's
Okay.
History Month. If you are dating a man
Mm.
who uses the same rag that he washes his first and then washes his face, you
Mhm.
need to leave him.
So
Like-
you're saying if he doesn't have two rags, essentially.
Listen, if you don't want to do 2 rags, that's fine. But you need to work your way down. If we find,
I was
if
just
you
about
find
to
out
say
that
that,
your
Terrence. Like, you
man
would think
I'm
is
about to say
working
that.
his way
top down.
up,
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's
Oh,
a
top
wow.
down. Got it.
Yeah, top down.
I think that's
You know.
important. I think that's important.
I think it's very important.
I think
It's
at the
amount of
end of the
order.
day, as long as you start with your face and work down, you're good. But if you don't do that, and if you for whatever reason happen to start mid and go below and then come back up, circle back around,
Leave him.
that's a violation. Flag on the play. You're filthy. And you should throw yourself away, not even the cloth, just yourself away. We ran into this other one, and that we wanted to ask. Unfortunately, it looks like I don't know. I think we're trying to work it out right now. Where we lost LJ, but she's trying to connect right now with her tablet. But the reality is this right here, guys. Calida, I'm gonna let you chime in on this one, but you don't got a lot to say. I'm gonna tell you that right now. What's something you silently said during sex? And I'm gonna read a couple of these responses because I thought that it was actually pretty funny.
Please drink.
They
Calida.
said, "Oh
Yes.
my gosh, please hurry up. This is not yours. Yeah, I won't be back. Sex fire. Credit gotta be bad. Please don't fart. Her crack ashy. I'm blocking him right after this. I really gotta hold my own cheeks open. If they try to kiss me again, I'm leaving because I smell a cavity. I wish that nigga would get off of me. Please stop trying to kiss me. Here for a good time, not a long time. Get your body weight off of me. I think there's one more I wanted to get to. This is the one I want to get to. I wanna go home. That was the best one.
Somebody said another guy's name, and I was like, wow. Like, wow, we just disrespectful. Like,
that is very, very disrespectful. So we're gonna get a little personal this evening. Okay, we're gonna actually go into the minds of some of these men and maybe one of these women and see what are some of the thoughts that my virgin sister and my friends have thought during sexual encounters. No one's popped that cherry. I'm convinced. Go ahead, Calida.
I mean, hypothetically, if I had
In this
participated
imaginary world, there you go.
in those
Yeah, it's good.
activities,
Made me think that.
pretend. None of it's
Yes.
true.
Yes.
I think for me the top one would be, when is this gonna wrap up? Coupled with,
Wow.
I wanna go home.
Really?
Oh yeah. Because it's clear that there's a total disconnect, hypothetically,
In this
from
pretend world, yeah.
in the pretend world
Hmm.
of connecting with why is this happening to me? Like, has
I
this
don't
day
know.
not been awful enough?
Yeah,
Like,
you had a bad
at
day,
this
but it's gonna
point,
get worse. Go ahead.
it's gonna get worse.
Yeah.
For me, and I'm not gonna speak for all women, but
Hmm.
hypothetically, if I was participating in those activities, the
Sure.
connection is really important. And so I'm not hypothetically a blow up doll. So I really don't want you to just, be a DJ record scratcher. I
Mm.
don't want you to, try and throw me against the wall and break me in half.
Right.
Oh, wow.
Mike, that's inappropriate. Inappropriate. I don't know what you're doing over
I'm
there.
sorry. I'm so sorry.
It's my sister.
I'm sure that women are disgusted by that. And also, nobody is a Pornhub star. So let's wrap that up too. Let's do that too.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Let me reset the room because Lejanika, she had logged off for a second, and we came back, and we came in hot when
You
she
came
got
in
back
on
on it.
Literally, the
Pornhub
first
Yeah.
word I heard was Pornhub.
Yeah, yeah,
star.
yeah. And you
No,
thought
I
this
know.
was going to be a safe one.
You
Yeah,
thought
this
it
is
was
not going to be
fun.
safe at all. Not here on the Relentlessly Real podcast. We're going to get real, raw, and relatable. So the question of the day is, okay, Grandma, you don't need to say it. Just think it. But what is something you have silently said during hypothetical for Calida, but during sex? What is something you have silently said during sex? That's the question that we have of the day.
And it could be good or bad. It doesn't have to be a
Yeah,
bad
it don't have to be
thing.
bad. It could be good.
Yeah.
So, what is something I have something, but I want to let you guys go first. Ladies, are you done, Calida, with yours? You mentioned that you weren't a turntable.
Yeah, I'm not a DJ. No, I'm not a turntable. But if
Yeah.
I was participating, positive things would be, eye contact, some rhythm of some sort would probably be really awesome. Like being in a rhythm.
Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and move on. Cut from where we are right now.
Don't cut her off.
I don't know what's happening right now.
Don't cut her off.
You only need to give one. You only need to give one thing that was in. Okay, so Terrence or Mike. Before we give LJ a moment to think about it. What is something that you have silently said during sex?
So what I've said is like, breathe. Unicorns, giraffe, elephant. All right, we locked in. We back.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Elise. Yeah. Thank you.
Let me block her real quick. Go ahead and finish up. Were you done, Mike? I'm just kidding. I'm not gonna block Elise.
I've had she did all that talking and this is not it. I've had did I turn the stove off?
Wow.
I've somebody in that comments had the exact thing I said, oh yeah, I'm not pulling out. I've had that. I'm getting real. I've had, I've had like I've had some. I'm not going to say my real bad one, but I'll just say I've had like. I did have. I'm gonna edit it. I had a. I'm just gonna stick with sisters from now on. So that was like that.
You went to the other side.
Yeah.
The forbidden fruit.
Yeah. So just
once you go white, I don't know what the saying is.
I did not confirm.
There is no saying.
There's no saying for white people.
Quickly come back. I don't know.
Quickly come back. There it is. That's the thing.
I did not confirm the nationality.
Okay, you're right. Once you go Asian, it doesn't matter what it is. You just didn't like it. Got it. LJ, what is something that you have silently said during giving the sexual stuff going down?
Doing the do.
You've had time to think. Man, you got about at least one.
Relax. Like be relax.
Well, hold on. Are you saying you're an overthinker, or that's what you mean when you say that?
Overthinker, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Relax.
Oh, I thought you was talking about like you were telling him, "Yo, relax."
Well,
like,
sometimes you need that feedback too.
Do you say it, or do you like? I feel like you gotta be like relax. You might actually sneak that out.
Relax.
Oh, I'm sorry. I meant to think that. That don't seep out.
full-blown
At
conversations
least
about
said
my
I
life
missed
in my
my
head.
show for this. That is so terrible. First of all, we got DVR and Hulu and all that. You can circle back on most shows now. At least it's okay.
But
You
not
know?
Right,
conversations about life. Conversations
DVR.
about life in my head. Like,
Wow, I didn't
what
even
is the
see that.
meaning of life?
I've had
Be
full blown conversations
investigate.
about life in my head. Okay,
That is
Ladies, I hypothetically agree with everything you wrote.
in
Hypothetically,
this fake world, yes.
in this fake world that my
I
41-year-old self doesn't participate in.
I'm glad you said that and stipulated that. So one thing I've said, I actually wouldn't say I silently said. I guess I would say I silently said. I would say
You
I
said
would.
it out loud.
No, I didn't say
Yeah,
it
What?
out
John.
loud. No, listen,
John don't
listen. I didn't,
silently
Say
say
what you
nothing.
said
He's
why
now.
would you say I would say it out loud? You think I'm that way, guys? Like
Yes.
I'm the
Yes,
nicest
John.
guy. You guys,
I think you are rude.
I actually force thoughts of like, because I'm like, man, I want to enjoy this moment. Like grandma, think of somebody that's gonna make me stay away
Mac,
from
but
Oh, okay.
releasing
Gram-
things. So I'm like, if
but
I could think of the
grandma
most
though, that's like
I don't know. I was like, give me something quick that because
You
if it
already
don't
got
get into
something
the head
quick. That's
quick,
why you thinking about
Why is this happening? This is
I was
ridiculous.
like, somebody please take this thought. Yeah, that's it. You
I've
know,
had
just
that
like,
too.
yo.
I've had a job. I've had like that. Definitely was like, yo, Terrence, you better not this quick. You better not.
I'm
I've had
serious.
that.
Because
Like,
okay, so let me just say it like this: what is the thought, ladies, and hypothetically, Calida, when a guy comes too early? What is the thought? Because has that ever happened? And so, what is the thought when that happens?
Oh,
Not the sympathy. Oh, not the.
oh,
Oh
bless
my
your
goodness. Oh my good.
yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Okay.
When's the last time?
You need a moment.
Not the. Not the.
You need a moment. Okay.
oh,
It's all
not
right.
need a moment.
There's
you need some
nothing.
water.
Right.
I'll be back.
There is nothing. Okay.
No.
And look, and then the guy's like, look, it don't normally happen like this. You know, I don't normally.
Be lying.
It's been a while.
Hypothetically, you hear that. Like for me, when if I hypothetically had that happen, my response would be like, "Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?"
Wow.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Just let them take a break and come on back. Come on back.
But the fight, listen. Sometimes
Second time
that'd be the
around.
end of the series.
If it's
Like,
working, don't
This is
proceed.
this
Try,
is a one
I'm-
season
yeah.
show.
I shot my one shot. I'm here for a good time, not a long time. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Finale. We're
LJ said,
done.
let me check this email real quick. Then you can just come on back. It's cool. It's cool.
So some of the other responses from some of the people on here, Lisa, no, I'm sorry. Shari said, "What am I doing tomorrow? I want to have his babies. I don't feel anything. Is this it? Wow." Woo.
Yeah.
Brady said,
Hypothetically,
with the F. Marquita says, dang, this is it. This is guys, we're not doing good in general. This is not looking good for us as a community of men.
Somebody,
No.
I saw a post. Somebody said, "Imagine I think it was a girl. She said, imagine you going down on me, and I yell, boring." And I just out laughing like I would be so crushed. Boring. Like,
Yo, at least said her cousin said she is reclaiming my time. This is hard to hear, man. This is hard to hear. A lot of guys, and the thing about it, I think what makes it harder to hear is that I feel like guys be like thinking they done did a thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? We walk away, ego held
Right.
high, head held high, and most of y'all are, going through this whole thing, and I'm just like, ugh, it hurts. It hurts to see that.
so, unpopular opinion, but which gets talked about in the man world.
I'll shoot you. Go ahead.
And which is why I like in this Women's History Month, we need to talk about it.
Yes.
A lot of women talk a lot of smack, and it's a misconception. I was just talking to a good friend of mine about this. It's a misconception in the women world that just because he finished, you did your thing. And I'll be trying in my little smaller circles like that's actually not true. Like,
nah.
It's not true. Like, it's not just. It's almost like it's a guarantee to happen, almost. So just because just like it's a misconception that just because he finished fast, I really did my thing. That actually has nothing to necessarily do with you.
do
Like,
with
so
you.
What women do you what's the lens that they're saying that from, hypothetically?
A lot of women, just like men brag, a lot of women, which I'm not knocking, a lot of women brag too, and their lens is because he finished, I did my thing. Like, I must have put it down, and the thing I be wanting, if in the guy world, ma'am, with us, it's a guaranteed thing. I understand, unfortunately, with some of you all, it's not a guaranteed thing, but with
No, it's
us,
not.
and with us, 9 times out of 10, it's a guaranteed thing. Actually, if he doesn't, then you might want to have some questions. But literally, it's a guaranteed thing. So it's just like that fact alone is not what ends up being. Oh, you did your thing. You got a reason to brag. You got a reason to flex.
No need to wear the badge of honor.
Yeah,
Right.
like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you could.
I just wonder too. I don't want to talk about this much longer because I'm disgusted, but I wonder too if men don't finish for whatever reason, do women feel like some sense of like, oh crap, it was my fault that I wonder. So
I've heard that.
is there any thoughts there?
Hypothetically,
Mm-hmm.
definitely. I mean, I think there's an underlying expectation, hypothetically, that you are going to, complete hypothetical process. The mission.
Complete mission.
This is absurd. I can't even.
It's not
believe
absurd.
this.
I'm good. I'm good here. This is a safe space for me. I don't care nothing about nobody else. LJ, are you? Do you want to add anything to that? You good?
No, I'm good.
All right. So you guys know that normally we're gonna hit this all the time because, as I always say, there's plenty of things for the Earth is Ghetto. Probably every single week we always have for that. And this week is no exception. The Earth is still ghetto. And this is what I got to see or find in my search of Earth is still ghetto-ness. Here we go.
Oh, she's still in the TV. Wait. Girl, you moving too slow. Jump in that mother. Ooh. Let me get my oh, she done fell out the car. Oh, Lord. She done left her shoe.
So in this particular clip, if you didn't see it, if you're driving in your cars or what have you, they had a worker that was taking a bunch of TVs out, a Walmart worker, of course, that was taking a bunch of TVs out to, the drive, the drive and get your car, pull your car up, and we put the TV in. He had about 3 or 4 TVs. Somebody saw him come out, ran, grabbed the TV, threw the TV in the back of her car, and then tried to hop in the car, couldn't get in the car, finally gets in the car, and the passenger driver falls out of the car in the midst of her trying to get away with the TV. I suspect that this happened somewhere in Baltimore, Maryland. I'm not sure. Yeah, I wasn't sure of the location. I just kind of scrolled. I just kind of figured. I was like, it has to be.
Sure, it was in Baltimore.
First of all, that looks like Southeast DC for sure.
Yeah, I'm sure that's what it was.
Looks like Southeast DC.
And this is one of the rare occasions, Terrence, where I disagree with you, but this is one of the rare occasions where I will have 2 The Earth is Ghettos. I have to let you guys see this one.
1,000 wanted persons sent invitations to a party and a football match, but they didn't know that the offer to see the Washington Redskins in action had come from the police department.
They're queuing for a free ticket to watch the Redskins football team, a chance few Washington people could resist, which is exactly what the local police were banking on. They'd sent out invitations to pick up tickets for yesterday's game to the last known addresses of 3,000 criminals on the run. The operation took weeks to organize. It started soon after dawn yesterday. Waiting in the wings was the SWAT team, armed policemen ready to pounce.
Redskins on our side.
The smiling lady gently steering this man along the corridor is a policewoman. So are the cheerleaders.
Here we go, Super Bowl, here we go.
Most officers carried a gun, including the Indian chief and the man who played the chicken. Claiming your free ticket was easy. All you needed was proof of identity, which the police checked with the team upstairs.
Ralph Edward Cockburn, C-O-C-K-R-I-L-L.
Confirmed.
Another winner, Mr. T, Mr. T.
What a marvelous occasion. The lucky winners, overcome at the prospect of watching their favourite team play, waltzed off to claim their free tickets. But the master of ceremonies was a senior policeman.
So basically, these criminals were invited to come to see a Redskins game. They were on the run. It's like 3,000 criminals on the run, and they were invited to get a free ticket to come see the Redskins game. Everybody that was there were police officers who were acting like they were working with the Redskins and acting like they were cheerleaders, acting like they were, a part of the celebration. They get them all into one room, and then the police rush in, arrest all of the people that were invited to the Redskins game. The craziest thing I've ever seen. I didn't even know this even happened. This happened in '85. Clearly, I was born then. But the Earth was ghetto even 37 years ago. So
Southeast DC.
Now that one I will own. That was Washington D.C. and it hurt to
You
even
say
see
these
this.
were people who ran away from jail?
They were on the run.
They were
on the
wanted. They had
run.
warrants. They were.
Yeah, they had
I
warrants
think
on
one of
their
the guy
arrest.
was like attempted murder, armed robbery. I had ended up. I saw that and I had watched there's a documentary about it, about that whole operation.
Right.
They were naming some of the big. So like the guys who were like high level criminals. Oh, we got a double winner. We got a double winner.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was great.
It was a great strategy. It was very unfortunate that a lot of people came thinking they're going to watch a free game, and they ended up getting arrested and going to jail. So the Earth was ghetto even 37 years ago.
Yo, imagine getting arrested by somebody in a chicken costume. Like, hands in the air with a chicken costume. I'm like, yo.
I think those are it's the highest of highs to the lowest of lows in about 20 minutes. Like, think about that. You're like, yo, I got a free ticket to go to the NFL game, and I'm excited about it. I'm telling everybody about it. Get there, and you realize you're going to jail. Like, that is
Can I still see the game even before you take me?
Somebody yelled that out. Somebody yelled that out from the car. They were like, hey, can we still see the football game? As they're driving them by.
Getting arrested by the village
Might as
people.
well, since they was already there.
You can watch it on TV. So if you guys don't know, Michael B. Jordan's been in the news. And I wanted to make sure we talked about this because it's actually very interesting. And here's the clip where Michael B. Jordan was talking to a reporter about his new movie. I want you guys to see this.
Jordan, the director and the star of Creed 3. And, we know each other. We go way back all the way to Chad Science in Newark, okay?
The corny kid, right?
No, I did not say that. Misquoted for sure. No, you did not hear me say. I said we used to make fun of the name, but yeah, he is obviously killing things out here. How is the difference between you actually directing and working with the same people that you were directed with versus?
So that was that. And then Joe Budden actually calls out Michael B. Jordan, this is what we wanted to kind of talk about a little bit before we hop into the main topic. Here's what Joe Budden had to say. He always has something to say, but this is what he had to say about this.
To a girl is some corny nigga shit.
I can see that.
You being
That is
Michael
true.
B. Jordan today, allegedly sexiest man alive in all of these blockbuster movies.
I agree.
During your highlight week, you've probably never been more visible than you are right this second, and that's what you do to her. And if I bring back them white girl rumors, then it's gonna sound even crazier. Because why you talking to our sisters like that on the red carpet? We only talking to white bitches like that. But I'm not gonna make it racy. They say I make everything racy. That was corny of him to speak to that girl like that.
I'm not disagreeing. I would have made
Michael B. Jordan. That's why niggas call you corny.
Off air. I would have made a joke off air like word.
Hey, Creed.
You know
Hey,
what
what's
I'm
this nigga's name?
I wouldn't have did that in front of
Hey, Creed. In case you were confused, that corny ass shit you did is why niggas think you corny.
Yeah.
In case you were off a little bit as to why you niggas keep thinking that money hides corny.
So the question that I have for you guys is this: very simple. Is Michael B. Jordan corny for bringing this up after reaching the status he's reached, in terms of like doing his own movie and everything like that? Is he in fact corny?
Yes, he is. I actually think he could have done that offline. Like, there's got to be a level of shared respect for one another, right? Like, she's doing the interview. He's clearly made it to the top. There's nothing that he gains for tearing her down that way just because he's still in his feelings about something that is so irrelevant to who he is as a person now. It's an opportunity to uplift her.
Okay.
She's the one interviewing him. An opportunity to uplift her. It's her show. She's the one hosting.
I don't disagree with that, but I guess I don't think his response was warranted. I don't think he needed to be like, "I remember what you said in 1987."
His
Like
response was actually inaccurate because then somebody found the receipts of the actual interview. So she was sitting down with Lori Harvey, and at the time in that interview, Lori Harvey was the one who actually called him corny. So when she was like, "I didn't say that. That's misquoted," she was accurate. She didn't say it. It was on her show. But it was Lori Harvey who said it in that interview. Who said that?
And she was also giving big ups to corny. Like she was she was trying to say that corny guys, like the corniness is actually who we want. Like we don't like. That's what she was like. I saw the interview.
Right.
She was
in
was
that
actually
interview,
celebrating it. Yeah.
right.
So I have two opinions.
Of course.
I would have dragged her. I don't know if I would have dragged her publicly, but this is why, like, I always would tell people all the time, like, men will hold on to stuff of how you treated us, and our experiences how we are when we were in school. Like, literally, we formulate our opinions of women based off of, and I'm not saying it's good or bad, but but I've noticed that our opinions of women starts formulating in our younger years. And so how a woman in high school or middle school mistreated me will be then how I feel about women when I do come of, and I'm being honest, women are mean when we're young. Y'all, I'm telling you, y'all will I'm not dating that little young boy. And even if it's true, like, makes sense, I get it. But and then I've seen a whole lot, like as working in a middle school and a high school, I've seen it where the same dude that you played when he was in the 6th or 7th grade, and then come junior, senior year, now you want to be in his face, and you wondering like why he's interested in the 9th grader or the 10th grader. He's a senior. Like, nah, you played me. Like you were mad disrespectful, and that's why I'm rocking with her. Forget you. Don't come to me now. Like, so that's true. Joe Budden is also corny. So it's like the right message, wrong messenger. He should shut the F up forever. Nobody wants to hear you, sir. Like you by you bringing it up, you sound like a hater. You sound like a hater.
I don't know, T. I think we gotta give a nod to him though, because for some reason this man has had one real hit and has made a career as staying famous with one hit.
This is true.
That is one of the most miraculous things I've ever seen in TV in history. Joe Budden had one song, and he has kept himself relevant and rode the wave for 30 years. Like, yo, big. I'm like, yo, you are the man to make yourself still be relevant.
I agree.
I'm sorry.
All he was his foot in the door, man.
Man, he got his pinky toe through the door. And he's like, I'm in this joint. I'm in here forever. And he did not.
You came.
I swear, Joe Budden. I'm sorry. I had to say that. Go ahead.
The whole time, Terrence, to your point, like, not just men, but like, I feel like people in general remember things like that. Like, not necessarily like traumatic situations, but they remember interactions like that were meaningful to them, like even to within their adult years. Right, I can count on my hand, like I can count on both hands how many times I've like remembered certain things, interactions that I've had with people to this day, and it not necessarily like shaped my idea of like how people are, but it just it also it did shape the idea of like people in general, not just women, but people in general, like what they are capable of, and like for him to speak up about that, if he had like kind of like said a real nonchalant, like, oh yeah, you talk about the corny dude. Oh yeah, that's me. All right, whatever. And like kept it pushing, but it was like he kind of kept egging it on. It was like, all right, man,
It's funny, the pettiest thing I remember I might have done, hypothetically, I'm gonna take thing. This hypothetically happened. It didn't really happen. Hypothetically,
it happened. Go ahead.
Was a girl
a
girl at Towson who used to play the Black Student Union and used to play us like John is president of the Black Student Union. Like, oh yeah, like they whack. Like, I mean, used to diss hard.
Hold on. What? I didn't know I was gonna be in this. Who said it about me?
Used to make like fun of us, like like y'all, whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
So fast forward 5 years ago, I'm getting to interview long-term subs, hypothetically, for my school district.
Mm-hmm.
And here she walks in and she sits down on my interview panel.
Yeah.
Denied.
You must don't even sit your bags down. Stand. You
might
can
as well
stand
just
up
get
and
on
keep
up.
moving
Like,
right on out the door.
Good day. I said good day.
Have a good day. Don't burn no bridges. You never know. You never know.
Yeah.
Like,
so here's my question to you. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mike. Go ahead.
So another example, right? Like I remember, I might have been like in the 8th grade or something like that. This was probably like one of my biggest heartbreaks, right? Like somebody that I was talking to in 8th grade, and I'm thinking everything cool, but eventually everything wasn't. And broke up with me or whatever like that. Start talking to a dude that I was cool with. And then I think I see her maybe like my senior year of high school. And she's like, "Oh, hey, how's it going?" Da-da-da-da. I'm like, "Yeah, what's up?" And I like literally like just kept walking past her. Cause it was like, "Yo, I remember you played me." Like, "Nah, I'm cool. Hey, how you doing?" And I kept it pushing. So it was like stuff like that. I remember to this day. Granted, it doesn't make me hate women or nothing like that, but it also makes me aware of like how people could be. Also, we were kids, so some of that stuff don't really matter. But there are grown people that do crazy stuff like that, right? There are grown people that cheat. There are grown people that, you know what I'm saying, like are incapable of communicating to each other, so they ghost people, whatever like that. It happens even in your adult years. So I think like any type of experience like that, even if you experience it as a young person, like you remember stuff like that, and it kind of keeps you conscious of like what people are really capable of.
I think they were in the 7th grade. Like they were only in school for 1 year.
She said 1 year. I don't remember what year. But go ahead, go ahead, LJ.
So I think somebody started off, maybe Calida was saying something about like something about he didn't have to do it in that moment. But my thought too is that like when somebody called him out as corny, it was done on a social media platform in front of others. So it's like, and again, like you said, Terrence, the intent of how she used corny and like it wasn't a negative context, but like don't nobody want to be called corny. Ideally, it doesn't have like a positive connotation to it, right? To call somebody corny, right? So I also think too, like to what Mike, what you're saying too is like it makes me think of that quote about people will forget what you said, what you did, but like how you made them feel, like they're not gonna forget that, right? So granted, like when we make the comparison about like people like and how they treated you in our experiences and things and stuff like that happened in high school, I only had to do the math, but that for me, that's about 18 years ago. We kind of far removed from high school. And then in the rule of thumb that we people are called them corny back then is like, are we really still calling like adults, grown people, like what does that even mean to be corny as somebody in your 30s or 40s? That's
yeah, for sure.
You know what I'm saying? Like what's corny at 30 years old?
And also to Farron's comment that women are mean, y'all are mean too. Like
for sure.
I grew up with guys saying, you're pretty for a dark-skinned girl, your hair is nappy. And then I'm looking at those dudes now like, the world did not treat you well post school. So it's like, I get it, because I know that guys deal with things differently. Like I know that y'all hold on to stuff in a very different way than women. Like we will just cut you at your throat and keep it pushing. Like we're not, like I'm not afraid to say it. Like we're like, where can I stab him and hurt him the most? And then we'll move on with our day and get our hair done, our toes done, whatever.
Episode of Lifetime, Law and Order.
Hypothetically speaking, right?
Yeah, we're still hypothetically speaking, guys.
Hypothetically speaking.
As the FBI's like, what did she say? What she say?
Right, tonight on America's Most Wanted.
We finally got Calida at the Redskins game. We knew we would get her. That free ticket thing worked again. Yeah.
I hate that.
Commanders.
You gotta watch this podcast more.
Commanders. Oh my God. Oh, you're right. I forgot. Oh man. I would say I was gonna ask you guys what was the thing, right? So like you guys kind of alluded to it, but what did they call you in high school like that was like, or middle school that was like, dang, I can't believe they just said that to me. Like, what did they call you? Corny? Did they call you ugly? Did they call you unattractive? Did they call you cute? Like, what was some of the thoughts of what's high school really mean, and what did they say? What did they say? Just out of curiosity, I just wanted to know.
Mine, this was I remember this clear as day, but this was like late elementary, middle school, like middle school.
Uh-huh.
Lyle Simmons. I'm gonna say it one more time. Lyle Simmons. If he catches this he used to call me street sweeper because my lip. He'd be like, "Oh, you street."
Okay, I want to make sure. This is a safe space. Is it okay to laugh? Because that actually was. It's not nice. It's not nice. And I do
I'm trying
not
to find his
condone bullying.
profile right now.
Yeah, find
I'm
him,
trying
Terrence, and
I'm
tell
trying to find
him what I got to say because that is ridiculous.
I got
So,
one that lives in Newcastle. I got another one that lives in
Sedgwick Elementary in Gaithersburg. This was circa
but you know what?
1890. Yeah.
Find this man.
I can't
Find
believe him. I can't believe him.
Street sweeper.
That's so messed up, though. That's so messed
so
up.
mean, but
then look.
Really
but then
good
when I
job
got older, folks be like, the lips, they look so juicy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Back then they didn't want me. Now I'm hot. They all on me.
Come on, street sweeper. Oh my God, that is the funniest thing.
Oh,
Yo, we got a campaign. F you, Lyle.
That's right. That's right.
F you, Lyle.
What up? Look.
Yo, I'm gonna find him. I'm scrolling for him. You say you call her street sweeper, boy?
What?
Look at her now. Okay, Calida.
They lips injected out here? No, yeah, see, it's natural.
Lips is lipping. Come on now.
Lip gloss be popping. Look.
So, John, you know how strict our peoples were, right? So in high school, I was still getting my hair cornrowed. And they used to call me Queen Latifah from Set It Off. Like, that's what they used to call. Yeah.
Oh, no.
Go ahead, laugh. Go ahead, laugh.
I didn't know that. This is brand new to me. I didn't know they called you Queen Latifah.
They call me Queen Latifah from Set It Off. Shut up, Safari.
It's not real if you don't got the soundtrack.
That's hurtful. That's hurtful. Yeah.
Awful, John.
What did you do? Did you start unraveling your on the bus ride home? She's like, you know what? I'm so sick of this. I am so sick of this. And she's unraveling the
You know I couldn't do that. You know the beating I would get.
What? I know, right? Looking like Gangsta's Paradise going to school. All right, Mike, what you say?
So I'm always.
Oh, that's so funny. That slow tear come down. Yeah.
But nah, I've pretty much been short all my life, right? Like 5'5", that is all I got, right?
Yeah.
So back then, everybody taller than me for the most part. So folks is joking on me about my height.
Mm-hmm.
So they would say like leprechaun. They would say stuff like, yeah, like
you
got delicious. You know what I'm saying? They would say like little dumb stuff. Right? Yeah, look at that. Nice.
Look how the stars align.
Not the stars. I hate you.
Magically delicious.
Yeah, they would say little Bama stuff
my
like that.
God. Did you say magically delicious? Terrence, he's 5'5".
Mike, how tall are you now?
I was shorter then.
This is not a testimony, Lejanika.
Lejanika.
He's 5'5" and a half.
He's all you got. She says, well, how tall are you now?
Still 5'5". Thank you.
I am about to, my back hurt. This is not a testimony service. This is not a testimony service, please. She's like, where are you now? How did God work it out for you?
Yes.
There's no victory at the end of this. He's still 5'5". He just grew up. He just grew up with me. I'm sorry, Mike. I'm crying.
Since we talk about testimonies, right? So how I've overcome that, like all the ridicule and stuff about me being short, is like
yeah.
To the punch, and I learned how to Joan. Like you kind of have to at that point, right?
Yeah. You do, yeah.
Yeah.
Where'd you go to high school, by the way? Where'd you go?
Sula High School.
Oh, you went to Sula. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, you know how it was, John.
I'm trying to gather myself because this was funny. Terrence, it's your turn. What did they call you in your high school?
Baldy. I'm just kidding.
I'm about to say you had hair then.
Wait, what?
You had hair in high school.
You were bald in high school?
This man came out the womb.
No,
right.
I was
you say?
fat 9th and 10th grade.
Premature balding is a thing.
Yeah.
It is. We got a few people walking around my building. They be trying to jump. I'm like, bro, I got more hair than you got. Careful, young man. Careful.
Right.
So, no, I was fat 9th and 10th grade. And then that summer of 10th grade, I lost 75 pounds.
Wow.
And so,
in a summer?
then I had changed schools. So
he came in looking like
a
horse.
I came in a lot smaller. Like, so the issue, I think the issue for me is that I was just, because I went to a new school, I was just a non-factor, period. So no one said anything at all. Like, no one
cared.
No one cared.
But you felt victorious when you walked through that door.
What? I did. Like,
and nobody cared.
Nobody cared.
You could have been fat as hell. It wouldn't have mattered.
We don't know who you are, sir.
Sir, we've never seen you before.
We've never seen you before.
You doing the Rocky steps?
No one
even knew.
No one knows.
That's wasted energy. I know you wish you use that energy later in life, because I'm like, that's wasted energy right there. Nobody care.
Nobody care.
Well, did y'all have a class reunion? Because they could see you now.
Marquita called you Mr. Invisible.
Pretty much. Marquita, it's the truth. Like, it's the truth. She ain't never lied. She ain't never lied.
That's amazing.
Nobody knew it.
John is losing it.
Mr. Invisible.
It's the truth. Mr. Glass.
That's more hurtful than him losing weight. He called him Mr. Invisible.
It's the truth. Like,
oh God. Oh my God. I need a napkin. I'm crying.
And then I had the nerve to join the choir. Like, that was gonna make me more popular. Not a sport. Not gonna play football.
John, why are you laughing?
At least you were no longer invisible when you joined the choir. They were like, "Who the hell is that?"
It's like 5 guys on the choir, so I am invisible.
I'm just a nobody.
Come on, man. I mean, contrary to believe, Terrence probably could really sing back then.
Oh my
I heard the
God.
stories, Terrence. I heard the stories.
Oh, Jesus of Nazareth. I'm literally crying and sweating. It's so funny. Mine, I was obviously still in LJ. You don't have to ask what changed. I was still black as hell then, as I am now. But back then it wasn't nearly as popular. I've said this on the podcast before. It wasn't nearly as popular to be dark skinned as it has become over the years. So back then it was like, oh, you're black, you're bluer than black, you're purple, you're so black that all I see is teeth, all I see is eyeballs. Is John here? Anybody seen John? I'm like, guys, I'm right here, guys. Yeah, we can't see him. He's like, I was Mr. Invisible because I was so black, it was dark, and like, so whenever the movies were on, whenever we watched it, it was like a movie day at school. Can somebody find John? Can somebody tell him to smile? Or somebody tell him to
Back in the days when they used to roll the TV out on the cart.
Oh, when they put the TV on the cart, they would roll the TV out. I'm not lying.
No, he's not.
Brady said, "John, you're lying. You're not even that dark." I
wasn't even there back then, but I know it's.
What's
actually, with Brady, John actually got lighter. So
what are you doing?
John got lighter, so that's be very.
No, I make sure I have bright freaking lights.
Like, no, it's John has lighting.
Because if this lighting was off right now, you'd be like, "Yo, John." I think John signed off for the podcast, guys. We need somebody host. So John's off. No,
John,
I'm here, guys.
He's pushing that TV cart. The cart's moving by itself.
I was not allowed to get the TV cart. I didn't want to scare nobody. Yeah, so between that, being dark skinned and my violin, I think was probably the two most worst things that anyone could go through, and especially at Suitland High School, nonetheless.
Let me be very clear, John. If we were in school together and you got smart and you pulled out, and I knew you played the violin, I'm letting you have it. Like, no, you will not break out this violin and be loud on me.
Patty.
Listen, the violin was something that I really tried to hide, but I couldn't. So it's you just had to carry it proud. Yeah, you just did what you had to do. Wow, I honestly could tell you, I did not think I was gonna be that funny, and that was the funniest thing I've ever heard any of y'all say. Thank you so much for participating in that very basically hurting our own selves. We really put ourselves up there. If you was in
Yeah.
Be More, we would have embraced you. Thank you so much, Brandy. I'm sure you wouldn't have. You probably would have thought it was a gun in there, like most people would thought. So it wouldn't have been helpful at all, actually.
It's sensitive right now, John. It's sensitive right now.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. I apologize. I apologize. So listen, we're in the main topic now. Toxic femininity. Toxic femininity. And so we were looking up to kind of get a sense of what it is. And we found some good stuff. So toxic femininity that should be called out now. And since it's Women's History Month, we're going to get into that. So one of the things they had was your life will be incomplete without kids. Saying life is not complete without kids is a display of toxic femininity. When you say something like that, it's a display of toxic femininity because you're saying that women need to be mothers to have value in society and that being a mother defines womanhood. Women are so much more than just being mothers. More toxic femininity. Real women should be curvy. Some people think that the only way to be a woman is to be curvaceous. Often on social media platforms, those who don't conform to this idea of beauty are ridiculed for not having curves. Being curvy does not mean you are better than anybody else or that you are inherently more feminine. It is an old-fashioned idea which needs to die so that all women can feel accepted as they are, not based on outdated ideals of femininity. She is just a housewife. Women who make fun of other women and judge them for being housemakers perpetuate toxic femininity. If a woman chooses to be a housewife, it is her choice and does not deserve to be judged or ridiculed for that. Just like earning money is an important thing, so is taking care of your home and family. I am not like other girls. When you make a statement like this, you are basically putting down other women who might differ from you in order to make yourself look good. Every woman is different, and by stating that you are not like them, you are implying that there is something wrong with them and that they deserve the judgment they face from society. So that's kind of an overview of what toxic femininity can kind of dive into. And I guess what I through my research, I guess of it, I don't know how much you ladies know about it, but one of the things that I guess I saw was like it's generally through women to women. Toxic femininity occurs more frequently, they would say, from women to women than it does men to women. I don't know if you agree with that, but that was what the research was showing. That a lot, like when women call other women out about like for instance for this one, your life will be incomplete without having kids. Like, oh, why don't you have kids? Or why don't you have a man? And these aspects are what makes you a feminine woman from what the research is saying. And so it kind of led me to understand, like, or try to figure out and ask these questions of, you both of you ladies, I believe, desire to have kids. You can speak to that or not speak to that, whatever you choose to do. But has that question ever come up? And do you even embrace that as being toxic femininity at all? Or you just kind of feel like that's just a question that should never be asked, and is this something that's perpetuating a negative narrative? What are your thoughts about this idea of like, oh, my life will be incomplete without kids, for that first one?
I want to start with the challenge, that idea of like it's that this only happened woman to woman, right? I think that ageism is probably also layered with this, right? And so like if you're dating, right, your baseline introductory type questions: are you married, or have you been proposed to, do you have kids? And people are like, so you don't have kids? So do you don't want kids? Right? And I'm like, okay, well, I'm 35. Birth control, that's a thing that exists. It works well. What I'm saying? But like, it just hasn't happened, right? And so that kind of like silent pause of in between of like, again, not just woman to woman, but this idea of like, you are less of, right? Your value is compromised because you haven't, right? Or even just how on the flip side of toxic masculinity, we have these expectations of like the gender roles that a man should do and how he should stay in that boxes. I think it also works the same way. Again, not just woman to woman, but like being domesticated, not being so outspoken, being, all these like how you carry yourself, how you're supposed to look. I think that happens regardless. Like, it's coming from men and for women. So to that first thought, Calida.
You know, I guess maybe it's who I surround myself around. I haven't actually had women come at me in that way. What's interesting is I've actually had women say, you don't need a man to do that. Like, you could do it on your own, girl. Like, just go to a sperm donor, or adopt. Like, you can do it. You're a strong woman. And the bottom line is, I choose to not want to do things that way. That's not how I was raised, and I don't want to do it that way. And so from that lens, I feel a different kind of guilt, because it's like, okay, because I want to raise kids with a partner, with a husband, then sometimes I feel less than for even thinking that way, because I'm supposed to be women's empowerment. And I think there's multiple layers to women's empowerment. I don't think children define that. I think there are ways that we can do that with one another. So I haven't really had that experience. It's more been the opposite of just do it on your own. You don't need a man. And that part for
Feminism.
me, yeah, that part for me throws me, because I'm like, what? Yes, I do. I'm not doing this on my own. What? Like, I saw what my parents went through to raise me, and I was ghetto. I was a lot. So, that's just my feelings on it. And I struggle with how to have those conversations with women who feel that way, where it's like, girl, you can do it on your own. You don't need a man. Bump that man. You can raise the child by yourself, and you'll be a great mother. And it feels incomplete for me, so then I feel incomplete. So
Interesting. So as far as I guess the toxic nature of it all, or even opposite of that, what do you even believe is femininity at this point? Like, because I guess, are you saying that it's toxic to think that way, to be like, oh, we need to have kids, or we that defines, you think that's a toxic statement? Or because I don't know if you think it's toxic, or if you just think it's like shouldn't just be said, I guess is my question.
I mean, I think what makes, whether it's masculinity, toxic masculinity, or toxic femininity, what makes it toxic, which is an operative word, is that it's very limiting, and it's very much a blanketed statement, right? Of expectations and what you should be doing or not be doing on both sides, right? So like, it's toxic because it keeps you in a very narrow box, right? So if you're a woman, you should want to have kids. You should be domesticated. You should cook every day and you know what I'm saying? Like, but what if somebody isn't any of those things? That doesn't make them less feminine, right? So I think that makes it toxic, is that people want to put the femininity in a box, put the masculinity in a box.
Do you embrace, like, what are aspects of your femininity, I guess, is like the things that you embrace or gravitate towards? Like, what is something that you're like, I do accept this, or I do believe this is part of what my feminine nature should be as a woman? Like, are there things that you would even articulate that are that?
I mean, what are you speaking to? Are you
So
speaking to
like
how we show
we're
up in
saying
places?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm saying, so we're talking about this idea of, oh, well, if you have a child, then you're embracing this feminine cutout. So are you saying that I'm not embracing that feminine cutout, or are you saying like I'm just doing, because that door hasn't opened for me right now? This is what it looks like for me to be feminine right now, and I'm trying to figure out what is that makes you feminine right now, or embracing your level of femininity right now. What does that look like
What does femininity look like for us?
you right now? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'll speak from my lens. For me, femininity looks like that door hasn't opened yet, but in the meantime, I'm growing myself and developing myself and learning about toxic traits that I carry and learning how to combat them so that I don't bring them into a new relationship. And that's really hard. Like, that internal work of like looking at yourself and how you show up and what you say, how it comes across, it's hard. But Brandy, if I don't have a man, sis, who am I taking care of? My Hello Kitty stuffed animals, sis. Like I want to be that person. I am that person. If I had a man that I was dealing with, I would be taking care of him with the understanding that it's reciprocal. Like I have had to learn through a lot of really toxic relationships where the man wasn't able to do that part or didn't know how or didn't have an example or didn't have a sphere of influence of men who could pour into him and talk to him about what it looks like to show up. So I was on the receiving end of all of the toxicity that he carried from prior relationships. So that's yes, learning how to take care of my future man. That's exactly what it is. So I keep my observation glasses on 24/7. I watch all my friends that are married. I watch all my friends that are in some really challenging situations, and I listen. I listen to what's being said and what's not being said. Um, yes, Elise, to that. When that masculine energy shows up in the space,
Can you
there's
state what she says? State what she said. So
oh,
because
I'm
somebody
sorry. Yep,
listens to the
Elise.
podcast.
Okay, Elise said my femininity is more expressed when there is a masculine energy to balance it. And that's so true because like my brother, listen, y'all, he is lit. Like when I remember one time I tried to open my car door and like we were like struggling and then I realized let go of the door. He's going to open the door. At one time I was walking in front of him and I tried to he was like don't touch that door and that's what I was raised around. But not all women were raised around that. So I think the femininity piece looks a lot different for women, for different women.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you on that. Because I don't know, in one sense, I almost want to challenge this idea that what was it that Brittany was saying? Some learning how to take care of my future man, but like to what you were saying, Calida, is like, well, why does femininity only exist, right, if there is a man or not a man, and then how heteronormative even that thought is, because right, I think that there's duality in both, right? We have a right, so when I think like masculinity and femininity, we have a little bit of both, right? And so to me, my interpretation, right, of masculinity is being it might be being assertive, it might be taking charge, taking lead, being like decisive, like being very like those are right, but in some instances or circumstances I might need to lean back and like receive and like and on multiple areas of my life, not just in relationships, in my work, in my friendships, in my familial like dynamics. So I don't know, some words that kind of come to mind when because I'm like, okay, well, how do we define femininity, right? And so when you think about answering your question that you asked us, John, is like, aside from the child piece, what is femininity? What does that look like, right? So gracefulness, sensitivity, empathy, humility, sensitivity, gracefulness. Same example that you were just talking about, Calida, too. It's like, I like that what Elise was saying too, is like, if there is masculine energy present, right, then as a woman, then I'm going to be able to maybe in some instances sit more comfortably in like societal norms of like, I'm okay with letting the man open the door, right? And just like, so I don't know, I guess just a little bit challenged with that. Like, can we just define femininity without having to say that it only exists if masculinity is present?
I know one of the, before you can go after this, Terrence. One of the posts that I saw that I thought was interesting, it says, to the women who are labeled aggressive, keep being assertive, bossy, keep on leading, difficult, keep telling the truth, too much, keep taking up space, awkward, keep asking hard questions. Please don't shrink yourself back to make people happy. Be yourself. You're beautiful that way. So it's this kind of sense of, I can be the things that you were kind of alluding to, earlier, LJ. What I think is interesting though, when you're talking about like not you, but this particular post is like, it seems as though we're saying, or they're saying, and I've heard Calida say this before too, that my assertiveness is being seen as aggressive, or my leading is being seen as bossy. And are those things, I guess if you're operating in a certain role for a long time, like for instance, if you just happen to not have met the guy yet or whatever, how do you operate in that kind of space where you're like, I need to be this for my job or even for my relationship, but maybe also holding back that because maybe it's not what's needed, like to your point, LJ, like finding that kind of balance. Because I feel like sometimes it gets out of whack and out of balance, and I think that's where a lot of difficulties might rise. And I want to get a point to y'all.
There's this idea, so I'm gonna say real quick about like I do an exercise with my students where we do a T chart, right? And we put the word boy, we put the word girl on two sides. And when you think of girl, what all things that come in, like, oh, emotional, right? And then come with all these things. And then you say for the boy side, okay, what things come to mind? Then put all these things, okay, good. And then we cross out boy and we cross out girl, and then we say, well, what if we switched them? Do all the characteristics, are they different? Do they change? Can boys also be leaders? Can they also have feelings? Can women also be, and then it's like, well, yeah, right? Again, so this idea of what we define as being masculine or feminine, it has been socially acceptable if a woman is taking on masculine traits, right? That's like almost like stepping up, right? But if a man, right, is taking on more feminine characteristics, being emotional, open, and things like that, and it's like taking a step down, right? So it's more societally acceptable to move from a space of, to leave femininity and what's the word I'm looking for? And take on, that's not the word I want to use, but take on more masculine attributes. That is, I think, more socially acceptable. But still, women can get dinged for being too independent, too on the feminist side, and I don't need nobody to do it, and I can do it all by myself, right? That whole thing.
I mean, a lot of times I've noticed that I kind of go on the extremes. Like sometimes I'll shrink my assertiveness to accommodate a man who maybe doesn't feel as comfortable with my assertiveness. And like I can pinpoint that in like the first 120 seconds of a conversation, and I pivot because I don't want to be seen or as like an aggressive bee or too strong because of a lot of the work I do, which is why a lot of times I won't even tell guys what I do. I'll just be like, oh, I'm in the arts, and that's a safe place. I don't feel comfortable saying, oh, I'm the board president of a state arts organization, and I travel all over the country and help organizations with strategic development and board plan. Like, I don't feel comfortable saying that because, while that's a part of my makeup, it can be seen as too much. So sometimes I'm in a ball of confusion because I don't know how to show up in the space to say, hey, I want to get to know you. I'm interested. Are we interested? Are we bouncing this ball back and forth? But it gets shut down, or like, I don't know, the guys get uncomfortable. And so
is it
then
shut down, or do you preemptively shut it down to protect?
I probably preemptively shut it down to protect myself. Yeah.
But based off of experience.
So yeah,
right.
based off
That's
the
what I was trying to
experience, because it
figure out,
sounds like you kind of worked your way to preemptively like shutting down. I will say, like, that sounds super stressful. Like,
yes,
like just kind of like put myself in shoes type situation. If we had to do that as men, right? Like on the flip side, and had to kind of like tone down certain, I don't know, feminine traits as far as, okay, for example, being emotional and like wearing emotions on our sleeve type situation or whatever like that, right? If we express that too much, women can look at that as like, oh, he too emotional, or like, what I'm saying, he doing too much, or like, yeah, he's simping, or whatever the case, like whatever the words are that people use nowadays. So we got
the young kids say. What the young kids say. Go ahead, Mike.
The young folk, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, but at the same, it's like using those as examples is like, yo, that's super frustrating because like that's a part of who I am, right? So now I got to tone down who I am in order to fit in the space. That sounds really, it sucks.
I think that happens though.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to get off the topic, but I think what Mike you described that does happen. I mean,
On
it's
the
kind of
reverse.
even what
You saying on the reverse T? Like what he's
on the
saying
reverse.
happens.
It's kind of
Okay.
what Dr. T was talking about, how more enlightened and more mature and people who have experienced and navigating these conversations realize that men and women both have a duality. Like there is
Yes.
both feminine side
Yeah.
and masculine side to both human beings, and actually
Yes.
you are better when you embrace both sides.
Mhm.
And so,
Yes.
Sure.
but I do know men like I love it better when women give the feedback to other women about we have a problem with not letting our men exhibit both of those sides, because you want him to be emotional, but if he's too emotional, then he's weak.
Right.
You want him to take care of everything, but if he takes care of everything, then he's trying to control you.
Right.
Like you got to be able to let him walk in both sides, and the same thing vice versa. Like you got to let her be able to walk in both sides. And one of the things I was reading about the toxic femininity, it was just saying that toxic femininity is to explain that toxic femininity is based on the following stereotypical feminine traits: passiveness, selfishness, and nurturance; compliance, submissiveness, or docility; cooperation, sensitivity, politeness, empathy, compassion, and home and family oriented values. Like those are what toxic femininity is what it harbors on. But the person was saying, to be clear, there's actually nothing at all wrong with any of these traits. There's nothing wrong with any of those traits. But what he was saying was they only become toxic when you feel forced to express them or exaggerate them while suppressing who you really are. And that's when so like I'm hearing like you all talk, which is why this is a great conversation, because when you have to like I want to exist in my femininity, but I hear Cleve talking, but now I'm kind of like I'm cautioned, because if I exist in it too much, am I too docile? And if I'm too docile, and I want to be able to express but am I talking over him? Am I I get it. Like it's.
I mean, it's a nuanced thing, but what I would push back on with even Calida, I wonder how, if you were to do what you just said, and I'll put the thing up that you just put sent to me, LJ. But if you were to do what you just said, wouldn't that still, I mean, you're still all those things. The guy would eventually figure that out, that you're you're in all those spaces, right? You're still operating in that space. I don't know what you gain from saying, oh, I'm not going to show you that off the break. Like, because at the end of the day, wouldn't you want a man that does embrace all those things off the break? I guess is what I'm trying to figure out. Like, isn't that the kind of man you would want? Is a man that would say, oh, that's dope, you do that. Oh, that's dope, you do this. And I know that's not, I'm not saying that that's realistic or common, or most men will be able to embrace that. I'm not saying that. But I am saying, if a man isn't that, wouldn't you want to know that quicker than going down the road, hiding it from them, and then dating them, and then showing them more of who you already were, and then they're like, I didn't know you were all those things. Now I'm out, hypothetically.
Well, then there's the love bombing that happens when you do share what you do, which I've done, I mean, and I share out of excitement, out of passion, like not because I think I'm all that, or, like I'm a big deal. I know that I am, but I don't carry myself that way. So I've
It's
had
just what
both
you love to do.
Yeah. Right. Well, I don't feel like I don't feel like I have permission to do that, because if I do that, then I'm automatically aggressive and I'm too much. So I'm trying to find the balance of actually showing up and being friendly and smiling, and also saying, but I'm that chick. Like, I have worked hard for where I am now, and I'm looking for somebody to ride along with me, support me, challenge me, make me think differently, challenge my approach to finances, challenge my approach to my relationship with God. Like, that's what I desire. I'm not convinced that there are a lot of men that are in that space where they can offer that kind of support. And if they are, they must be stuck in Bible study, because I haven't seen them.
They're in Baltimore.
They are in Baltimore. So listen, I was about to say, also,
trying to fight their way out.
Like, John, before you, I thought about. I meant this
fight
a while ago.
Fight their way out.
They on the way. They on the way. They try to get there, y'all.
They ducking bullets to get to you, sis. I got you.
Not in Bible study or in Baltimore.
Yeah, but
I'm sorry, I'm immature. Go ahead.
No, but Calida was talking about earlier I want to counter it because she was. Oh, I think it was Calida or Lejanika. I forgot who said it.
I'll put it back up.
Does toxic femininity is it a bounce off of does femininity have to show up with against masculinity? Like does femininity exist like out of masculinity? And so when I'm here, like even with John asked the question to Calida, I was thinking toxic femininity or even toxic masculinity, either one. Both of them, I think a commonality is a trait that might say you're not a woman unless you have a man. Like you have to have a man. And it's also very toxic to think that all women, all heterosexual women are in pursuance of being with a man. And if that's not my energy right now, if as a woman, if you're not actively pursuing the possibility of being with a man, then you're not a woman and you're not living out your femininity. And I think that is a very common misconception, and it's very chauvinistic for men to think that, and it's very toxic feminine for a woman to think that every woman needs to have a man on her arms, otherwise she's not a successful woman. And so I think the issue, it was almost like a question, like Calida. So almost like, do you all feel pressure to find a man, and therefore because I have this pressure to find a man, I won't let off everything up front because I don't want to scare a man off, even though what John is saying. But legitimately, I actually don't want you as my man if this does scare you off. But is there like a societal pressure to get to have a man? So therefore, I'm willing to like dim some of this stuff so I can, is my question kind of making sense?
Yeah.
Like, is that I feel like that's a
You're
thing.
making sense.
It's a long question, but yeah.
It is a long question to Terrence. But no, to your point though, I think there's a societal pressure. I think it's a both and. I think there is a societal pressure to feel like you're complete with a partner. And I also think there is a culture um, pressure. There's a Black culture pressure. There's a Black family pressure, right? Like, I remember somebody in my family once said to me several years ago, they were like, oh, I didn't think you would ever want to have a boyfriend or be with a man. And I was like, way to eat that assumption cereal for breakfast. That's not true. So I think having that on one side in my ear and then watching the rest of life happen, I'm really trying to straddle that line, Terrence, of not dimming. Like I've actually been actively working on that with my therapist. Like I'm not going to dim my light. I do want to have a partner, and I'm not going to settle because the examples that I look at, my brother, my dad, like I'm not going to settle because I know that it's out there and I don't need that to define me. I desire it, but I don't need it to define me. I desire it.
Did you get there, or have you been there? Did you get to that place where you don't need? Oh, because you say I desire it now. It's not like need based anymore. Did it take you time to get there, or you've always been there?
It's a hit or miss, to be honest, because I'm struggling with that piece of I also want to have a legacy. Like I want some little broke friends to carry on the passion for life that I have. So I think I straddle it. Like sometimes I'm cool with it, and sometimes I'm like, oh my God, but I really want to have my own little friends and raise them and like help them show how to change the world. And then the reality, which is that is not the case right now. So I go back and forth.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I'm looking at the comments. The what brown girl sound off. Even to right, Lisa saying right, the like somebody telling you how to feel, or when there's this confinement or restriction, or again that box of what it looks like. Yeah. Terrence, going back to your original question, I don't know that someone having a man is the is the end all be all definition of femininity, or right? Is that kind of what you were?
Yeah.
Are you not feminine if you don't have a man, or do you like? Again, to that question is like I think that there is a outside of another person's energy. I like what where was she at right here? She said getting out of this idea. Tony said it. I think we also need to recognize as humans, we all possess both types of energies, right? So we're still kind of sticking to that idea that if you're a woman, if you're a person with a vagina, then you are is femininity. But I have in different circumstances or who I'm with, more of my masculine will come out or more of my femininity will come out, right? And so if we agree with that idea that we contain both energies, the latter question is almost irrelevant because even if there is not a man or another partner there, I still contain both.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
I wonder too, like what masculine traits a woman can have that a man will embrace.
Say that one more time.
I wonder what masculine traits a female or woman can not female, dear God, let me not say that. A woman can have. You know, I wonder what masculine traits a woman can have that a man will embrace.
Okay, let's see. I'm gonna go to this book. I'm gonna go to
I can go
this
to the
chart.
I can go to the I can go to the I can bring it up here
Yeah,
too.
yeah. Pull that up real quick. So you
I
said
got you.
what masculine traits
That a female can have, a woman can, excuse me, not female, a woman can have, um, that a man will embrace. A masculine trait. So we got aggressive, independent, not
can
easily
I can I
influenced. Go ahead.
how about I say just for the sake of semantics, right?
Uh,
What masculine traits might a like man be attracted to, right? And like if a woman is expressing these masculine traits, right? Because there's duality, feminine and masculinity. Which of the in what masculine traits would are you saying would they find attractive?
what a man find attractive.
Okay.
I feel like we should answer that.
I want to know. No, I want to know what they think
Okay.
about us. That's what I'm saying. That's what I want to know. If it's like
Yeah, I
spot
got you.
on
To say,
or
okay, so if I'm looking kind of going off the chart here, right? So if I
mhm.
were to say not easily influenced, I feel like that's an attractive. Like this is somebody who kind of knows who they are, what they want. They're not easily, swayed by others or their influences, right? They're pretty like self assured. I would assume that one would be a check.
Mhm.
Um, Decisive. Tough, which is a relative, like in what context are we talking about tough? But I feel like tough, right? Resilient. Another a synonym that might come to mind be like somebody who's resilient, right? So tough,
Mhm.
resilient.
Yeah, I think that men would embrace a woman that's not easily influenced, a woman that is that's tough, that can handle taking feedback from her man, right? So if you're like, babe, I've been watching such and such, and I'm observing this about how you're showing up or what you're doing, or maybe you don't like what I cook. Maybe I'm not a great cook, and you want to help me be better. Like I feel like that would be an attractive quality for a woman to say, you know what, thank you for being honest and telling me, that I don't put enough salt in the food or what have you.
Mhm.
Um, I think logical is an attractive trait because there's a lot of us running around that are slightly illogical about a lot of things, and I blame social media and all the reality shows that we are saturated with because most of that just is not our reality in real life, and so we have
Mhm.
to be hyper aware of that and pivot and adjust to the reality of our actual lives. So
Mhm.
those are the ones that I would say,
And I guess I
along
would
with
ask
what.
the guys. I would ask the guys like, are they spot on? Like, what do you think for what
I
y'all
saw
think?
some comments that definitely was spot on. Like so, Nafisa and then definitely Calida. Like what if you're logical? That's a turn on. I'm sorry if you are like logic, and and I hate that 'cause even saying it is assuming that women aren't logic, but we're pretty much saying that women and men have both sides. But seeing logic and analytics being in a situation and a woman navigating and living in that space is a gigantic turn on. Like,
In what
because
space?
in a logical and analytical space, because to me, in that space, you're maximizing that over the emotional when you're reacting, and so that is huge because that means you're investigating. You're looking at the numbers. You're looking at like how does it line up? Does it make sense instead of just reacting off? I mean, that's how I interpret it. You know,
So I agree with you. I agree with you, T. That whole like, in spite of how you emotionally feel in this moment, I can logically process what's happening and I can make a decision based off of my logic rather than my emotions. That's for me, that's attractive when a woman is able to do that. Um, I've experienced, have experiences with women, in the past and currently, right? Like even with my wife and women in my family, that can like sit back and say, "Hey, I am like," it's almost like that emotional intelligence type thing, right? And not like being reactive based off emotions, but like actually thinking, like, you know what, in this moment, I'm not feeling great. I'm not feeling all that good. We can't have this conversation right now because I'm not sure what's going to happen or how I'm going to respond. So let me just go ahead back off, or be able to like identify and say, hey, you know what, I'm upset because of X, Y, and Z. This is what has happened that caused me to feel this way, and this is me trying to express that to you.
All
Like being
right.
able to like logically work through stuff like that. So yeah.
I got y'all. I got y'all both. I got both of y'all, LJ and Calida. So
Yeah,
Tony made
yeah.
a statement. Tony made a statement that we're going to highlight, and then Calida and LJ are going to speak to that. The statement is, to be honest, I'm taking issue with the feminine traits versus masculine traits things. For me, it's really about the very essence of life. The fact that for people, ecosystems, communities to thrive, there must be balance. I would like us to talk about the fact that there are still 1940s expectations placed on women and men, yet we face 2000s realities. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I'm gonna speak to that. So for context, I'm not sure from what view you can see the graphic that John shared, but like there's a space, the header right in the top of that chart says traditional gender stereotypes, right? So operative word being traditional, right? Which again, the activity that I kind of described with my students, right, is that like we are thinking about it in a very traditional 1940s way, but now in where the time and climate that we live in, what we very much now are moving towards or are living in is that those characteristics are fluid, right? There is not a very, it's more of a dotted line instead of a hard line of right. Like, and so in partnership and the way that life is set up and communities are set up, absolutely, we should instead be focused on if you have two individuals, regardless of what their gender is, there should be balance of someone has to be right passive. Like you can't have two aggressive energies at the same time. Someone at some point in time is going to have to lean more into the assertive, and the other person has to, like, there has to be the balance, right? You can't at all times, right, be home, or like you can't one person independently. They have to be a good, almost like I don't know. I just get this idea of like an orchestra, right? You have all these multiple instruments, but like everyone is playing their part. You play to the strengths of like, Calida, John, I could speak to that whole dynamic
No,
of like,
you go ahead and finish the sentence. I'm
of
excited about this sentence.
like everybody playing and or singing together. It's like you gotta hold down what you're supposed to be holding down. Yeah, yin and yang, right?
Yeah.
And like, but that just changes, right? And so kind of getting in that right energy at the right time in the right circumstances, again, regardless of who has the penis and who has the vagina, it's balance. So just wanted to, what you're saying is not, I don't think what we're not saying, but yeah, it's that, again, that operative word in that graphic is like traditional, and I don't know that some people do still ascribe to those traditional stereotypes, but I think there are also conversations that are being had where people are saying it doesn't. We don't have to live in this it's a solid line system.
Gotcha. So I got a
Hold
question to
on,
that.
hold on,
Oh,
Mike.
go ahead.
Kalita was gonna respond before.
My bad.
Before,
My bad.
go ahead, Kalita.
Okay. No, I just wanted to uplift, like the traditional roles that our lives have been sort of categorized in from the 40s versus today. There's this expectation that women should be doing it all. We should be having the babies, cooking, cleaning, planning, all the things. And the reality is that is just not what life is anymore. Because to be honest, when women were at home or you know, that was the role. The reality now is that a lot of women are working. A lot of women are out in the field and they're having to do the work, and they're going up the ladder per se, for lack of a better statement. And that shifts the roles. So to what Lejanika shared about the balance piece, I think that's really important. And I don't think it's traditional anymore. I think it's reality. And then where do we take from each of those categories? Like how do we meld some of those together, because there are also men who step into those roles of being at home and cooking and taking care of everything. And so how do we adjust our lens? How do we adjust our expectations? How do we tune in to our partner, and find out, hey, where are the holes? Where are the missing pieces? Where can I step in more? Where can I step back more? I think it's the communication is trash now. So that's my take on it.
Gotcha. So my question is, like, when it comes down to traditional gender roles, like whether it's like femininity or masculinity, and I know we're talking about, like, we live in a society where, like, those get mixed and there's a balance between, like, men and women having masculine and feminine traits on both sides. But I've heard women say that they wouldn't mind taking a submissive role, or taking a more, like, a more, I guess, taking on more feminine roles or
Traditional
traits.
feminine attributes. Yeah.
Yeah, traditional feminine attributes. They wouldn't mind taking those on if men would balance that out with the more masculine attributes, right?
Hmm.
So if they showed up in those spaces, women would fall, I guess, into those more feminine attributes. But because men in their lives don't necessarily do that, now they have to kind of, like, fill in that space. So my question is, like, what do y'all feel about, like, that statement? And, like, do you feel it's true, or, like, what you feel about it?
Yo, Tony, I was thinking about that exact phrase, soft life, right?
What does that
That's a
mean? I'm
thing.
sorry. What does that mean?
People talking about being like living a soft life, a life of ease, peace, comfort, intentional happiness, like just right, kind of
Yes.
laissez faire, go with the flow. Like I'm not having to force or try, like and so to the question that you're
I'm,
asking,
I'm sorry. I just want to ask. It's soft. It's soft like a soft life, like a kept life. Like you. Is that what you mean? I'm trying to understand. I guess when you speak
I
to
think
soft life.
I would say describe it as more of a mentality and a state of being.
Okay, got it. Got it.
Hmm. Um, Mike, I just lost my thought to what you were just asking about.
He was talking about
I
the
think,
traditional roles and all that changed and shifted. Like, are we
hmm,
still held to those or not?
who's we?
Us, this generation. We're talking about like the 2000, right? Is that am I
So
framing that
so
correctly, Mike?
yeah, so the question is, like, excuse me. So if men would show up within their, like, more masculine attributes, women would fall, like, eventually, like, fall into the feminine attributes. But because men don't necessarily show up, they have to show up in those masculine attributes. So my question was, like, how do you feel about that statement? Do you feel as though it's true? And just want to know your thoughts on it.
I in my workspace, I am always very much in my more masculine energy. I absolutely love and can appreciate moments outside of my work life where I don't have to live also in that masculine like energy. Yeah, soft life, please. Like let the ease, the
Soft like
peace.
me, please. Yeah, I got you.
Yes, right. But then there are, again, depending on the circumstances, depending on the person, where there are moments outside of work with a partner or with in my like relationships that I have as friends, family, where I'm like, I do want to be more in my, I want to take the lead. This is how we're going to get it done. We're going to meet at this time and we're going to do this. And this is going to coordinate. Like, and I'm very like, I'm being very intentional and very like proactive, like living in that space. Sure. I think no one wants to always be in like 100% living in their masculine energy at all times. No one want to be constantly living in their feminine energy at all times. So yes, I would, yeah, it would be amazing to be able to turn that other opposite off so that you can live in that other space. If you're not here, then you're there. But what if there is no partner? And that person is, I think Elise said it earlier, is
both.
You got to be both, right? Like if it's just you and you're not, again, bouncing that kind of like, whew, I can just fall back for a little bit. You know, it's like you don't necessarily have that luxury so much. You gotta stay. And then we just have this assumption that like if somebody's been living and operating in all areas of their life predominantly in their masculine energy, and then someone comes along, that they're automatically overnight supposed to now be able to just shift in having a now 50-50 balance of living in masculine and feminine energy. Like, whoa, I've been 90% residing in my masculine energy at work, at home, with my family. I'm the only, like, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, and so now you're supposed to come on and now I'm supposed to just now be feminine?
Yeah, it's a behavior. It's a behavior.
It's really hard. It's so hard because I have to show up. I mean, you saw, John, when I did the testimony for the legislative offices in Connecticut, I had to show up like I will pull up. But what's interesting, Lejanika, is when I am in a different space, like in a different environment, my softer side naturally comes out. My voice goes up 15 octaves. All of a sudden, I'm a different person. But I don't always like, it's exhausting to shift mask. Like it's like, well, am I strong, or am I like, oh, calm and cool and hey, nice to meet you, or it's like, what's good, what's going on, like what is the point? Because also I feel like there's a, like, how much of my time am I going to waste to find out that you're not even about anything that lines up with my values? So it's a catch-22. Truly.
I would also say age plays a role here, because I feel like you get to an age, as I've talked to my therapist, she says she doesn't believe in midlife crisis. She's like, that's not a thing. When you're in your 40s, your late 30s, you know who you are, and you don't want to flex that or bend that for anybody. So it's almost like it's like you kind of look for spaces where if you're not going to accept me as I am, bye. Like legit. Like you can go. I'm cool in this space. I don't now want to shift it or bend it for anybody. And I understand that relationships in general are about compromise. But the older you get, the less willing you are to compromise. That's the thing. Like it's easy to compromise when you're younger, but as you get older, I'm not willing to compromise this. I'm not willing to, you know what I'm saying? And so, and the other thing is, you all were talking, it's funny. Normally, I like to look at it from the woman's side, but I find myself looking at it from the male perspective, because I think what you're talking about, men do that too. Like even at my job, I find myself, because I'm cognizant of that men can overpower women, I tend not to overpower my staff members. I tend to let the women speak like first, because I don't want to be perceived as mansplaining to them. I don't want to be perceived as talking over him. And so, but the issue is I'm the school leader, and so they want me to take that role. And so sometimes I will not fall in that. I won't
Me
fall
too.
in that space.
Yeah.
So I will, in a sense, them.
We advocate for them. We advocate. What? We advocate for the women by staying quiet. Yeah. No, I'm agreeing with Terrence. This is what we do.
Aren't you self-employed?
Because the tricky thing is for you all is
quiet at home. Go ahead.
It is. I'm just saying. I'm trying to get to the point where it's true. So because this conversation comes in with men when it comes with 50-50.
Yeah.
That's where that navigates that space, like with 50-50, because like I'm playing devil's advocate on something Dr. T says. We have 1940s expectations when eggs is $20 a cart. Like, so just like we got these ideas that, listen, I want a man to take care and provide for everything when gas is almost $3.50 a gallon. And like I saw one article where the issue, I guess, with Tia Mowry, guys going through a divorce, something like that, and they were making a big deal that that she has a top earner and her ex-husband, whatever it was, made $3 million, and then someone commented that's not like a lot of money. He does, and I'm like,
that's not true.
And like it is true, but they were saying he's not in that guy was not in the top 1% of salary.
$3 million being worth $3 million.
He makes $3 million
a year. Right.
A year, and I'm like, actually, mathematically, that is in the top. He is in the top 1% of earners, like a year. So I'm not. We can get debate whether that's not enough. I just wanted. I was pushing back on the fact that that person was emphatically wrong. If you think that $3 million a year is not in the top 1% of salary earners in America, like that's the top 1%. And so the point I was trying to make is it's a conversation of, even as men, like we get put, if you don't pay for it all, you're not masculine. If you don't bring 100%, then you don't allow a woman to live in her femininity, which makes you less of a man. And we didn't have a lot of pressure, just like you are having a lot of pressure to, like, to dim your light or to look in a more traditional role.
I think we're missing one key element of this all, in my opinion, is that we all, from what I understand of at least the people I kind of know here, right, is like we all kind of grew up watching our parents' marriages, and there's some sense of duplication that happens through that when you're looking into relationships. So I mean,
sure,
I'm not saying speaking for everybody, but I'm speaking. I got you after this, LJ. But the roles that you saw were more or less traditional. So therefore, your scope of marriage was based off of a lot of what you saw. And there was never a new conversation that emerged once we got married, where it's like this thing that we're talking about now that's more new age, like, oh, you could be both feminine and masculine. It was that we all had this, I had this lens of, this is what marriage is based off of my experiences with growing up. Therefore, I duplicated my experiences. So now when you're talking about, oh, let's have these other roles that submerge recently, and there's been no conversation of those recent, those new realities. It's like, oh, well, how do you deal with that, or how do you rectify that, considering that everything you've learned about marriage was based off of foundationally traditional roles that were from the past, and you're already in a new marriage while things have already shifted. But go ahead, LJ.
So I will share from the experience of those who did not have a mother and father. Again, not exclusive to, feminine, one being feminine and one being masculine, but as in regards to the one parent not having to have to do that, the two parents having to do that balance between, okay, I'm going to live more of my masculine and then you're going to be more in your feminine. Like, mom was both. And probably for the fact that she was the head of the household always, for most of the time, in that masculine space, right? And so if we're saying that is the only and primary way in which we kind of are learning about how those energies coexist in a relationship behind closed doors, right? Because that might not be your, like, while I was in a single family home, that's one thing. That's not to say that I didn't see any marriages or like any two parent situations, but that wasn't behind closed doors, right? And so um I remember having the conversation with my therapist, like, the paying the bills, my mom like sit me down at the table. She was like, this is my paycheck. These are the bills. This is what needs to be done. This is what's broken and needs to get fixed, but this got to get put, like, just literally running the house, going to work, cleaning, cooking, like all of the things, right? Gender role things, traditional gender role things. It was one person. So I didn't have that, like, seeing how they kind of within two individuals played off of one another. And so again, to what I was saying earlier, it's like, well, how do, if that's the script that you kind of are basing it off of, and then you go into your own adulthood and you are living for so long being in your own space, not with a partner, with both of those compounding experiences, as valid as they are, how do you make that shift when somebody, right, this, how challenging that can be to like now have to play off of someone else's energies and making that balance. It's like, and so Elise was asking the question, like, is there anybody in the chat where it's like, you were living mostly like, but for so long independently, and then there's someone else kind of came in the picture. Like, can anybody speak to how that transition was? You know, because I think I worry about that too. It's like, Terrence, you were talking about, the older we get, the less we're willing to compromise, right? And so it's like, in the same regard, the older we get, the longer I'm like may possibly be living in that always 80%, 70% masculine energy. The heart, like the more challenging I feel like it could be to
For sure.
come back off of that some, because you're like, this is just how it is. It's what I'm used to being.
I guess even taking it a step further than what even I hear your question. I'm obviously not a woman and can help with that question, so I don't know. But aside from even that, though, how do you? This is a real question, and I know we got to wrap soon. But how do you even know? Like, not how do you even know, but how do you know how to be a wife, or what a wife? How do you know that? I mean, other than partnership, like how do you know how to be a wife if you haven't? This is not a shot either, obviously, but if you haven't seen it, how do you become it? I guess the very thing that you're saying, that you're kind of speaking to, like, how do you curate the information of this is what I gotta be in this space? Like, I just want to know, like, where do you get that from? Either one of you can answer, but I just would love to know what your thoughts are.
I mean, I think even if you didn't grow up seeing that, and that's interesting, Tony. I would love to know why you think that's the wrong question. Because I mean, I think it has valid traits to it. Um, because for me, I watched my mom. Right now, was my mom the perfect wife? Obviously, no. Nobody's perfect. But I also observe healthy relationships that I see of friends of mine. And it's like good, bad, and ugly. So relationships that are perceived to be great, and then I have friends that are vulnerable and open up and say, "Girl, like this is a mess. I don't know what I'm doing." I think it's 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 twisted. For me, I'll just speak for myself. I'm not gonna other this or speak for anybody else. I observe my friends. I observe how their environment is. I observe their energy around one another. And if it looks like something that I can relate to, then I want to spend more time watching it and learning. If it looks like something that's probably toxic, I'm probably not going to spend that much time with them. But I think watching other people and how they interact, how they relate, how they argue, and how do they solve their problems. I think that's really important to see. And if you don't see it, what's your frame of reference? Like, what's your reference point? And then who are you checking in with? Like, I would pose that question to the three of y'all. You got married, so who are you checking in with to see? Are you doing your role? What's your communication like? What's that emotional support like? That intimacy, like and I agree, Tony, like being in healthy relationships, period. But I think you have to spend more time outside of yourself in order to learn what healthy relationships look like and not try to figure it out all on your own.
Yeah. So to kind of answer your question, because you kind of flipped it back on us, right? In reference to like the
Mm-hmm.
guys, like what are we using as like I guess those uh the litmus test? Is that the word I
Yeah,
want to
I think
use?
that's a
Yeah.
fair word.
I
Yeah,
like
Yeah.
it. I like it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like it.
So for someone, say if I wasn't in a relationship yet, I would use like the relationship I have with John and Terrence now, right? Like men that are desiring either to be in relationships or are already in relationships. Use them as like that grounding to say, am I doing this right? Am I doing that right? People that I know that's going to challenge me, right? And that got, that have standards, similar standards of mine, and things that I desire like within a relationship. And from a perspective of being in a relationship, it goes from not just talking to John and Terrence, but now I'm talking to my spouse because this is the one I'm in a relationship with now. So now we got to have a communication back and forth to say, hey, um, how are you feeling about like me being a husband this month? Like, you feel like I'm doing a good job? Is there something that I'm not doing that great? What do you think I should be doing better? And vice versa. Like, we propose those questions to each other as far as like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
if she's my wife and she asks me the same question, I would expect her to ask me the same question to say, hey, what in her shoes, like, hey, am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing as a wife? Like, in your eyes, like, are you happy? Are you satisfied? And if not, how can I get there? So yeah, the shift happens from, hey, not just John and Terrence, but from my spouse too. Like, they have to be the ones I'm communicating with to figure that out.
I want to
Tony
speak
said,
to. I got you. Go ahead, LJ. You go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah, no, she said it's not about learning how to be a wife, right? Because I guess the consensus of what our conversation has been so far is that it's relative, right? If we are moving away from that 1940s traditional, right? It it's not about where do we learn to be a wife. It's about how do we learn how to be in healthy relationships. Shout out to, I'm gonna give a plug, shameless plug. I am not sponsored, but I love a lot of her content. Therapist Nedra Tawab, she just released her second book. It's called Drama Free, and it talks about family relationships. Really, really good. And how our um, the relationships within our family dynamics, how that bleeds into all of our other relationships, obviously, because that is kind of the first experiences that we have in dealing with, yes, love her work is so good. And I was just listening to an excerpt from her new book, Drama Free. Really, really good read. But I like what Tony was saying. It's not about learning the role of a wife, or who are you learning to be a husband from or a wife from, but who are you learning how to have a healthy relationship, the skills of being in a healthy relationship, forgiveness, communication, understanding, empathy, partnership, compromise. That's not specific to a man, a wife, or a husband, or wife and wife, husband, 2023, right? So like, where are you learning those traits from?
So I don't disagree. I guess I assumed that we will want healthy relationships, so I didn't think I had to say it. But I would say this: I think we pick up on whatever we're around more to the point than Nafisa was saying, and so whether we are realizing it or not, if we're saying I want to be a husband or I want to be a wife, you're basing that off of something somewhere, right? So you've at least picked
Or
it up. So
why can't why, okay, so I get you, but why is it like, what if the person is saying I want to be a wife? What is it? I want to have a partner. I want to be in a healthy relationship. I think that also could be the narrative.
right, I'm not okay. Let's not look at it as wife or husband as in like too much of the characteristics, but more so I don't want to say the office, but the title only.
The role.
The role. But I wouldn't really say I'm really saying the title more so than even the role. Because I'm saying that when you go to the mindset of, okay, I want to be a husband as a title, not all the other things you just said, not as far as like what does it mean to have healthy relationships, really.
Not
you're
all
looking
that.
at you reflect back on whatever that looked like. Like it's inevitable that you're gonna say this is what it looked like. This is what I saw. And so you're either going to duplicate what you saw or you're not going to duplicate what you saw. You're either going to learn from it or unlearn it in terms of your own experiences. Is what I'm speaking to. So that was with the basis of the question of where do you even understand the scope of I want to be a wife? Because to some degree both of y'all said I want to get married, which means the title of wife was within that characteristics. I would assume you both would want healthy relationships within that marriage. I didn't think that would be something that I would have to overly state, but I would assume it would be healthy. But I just want to just say, like, I think a lot of marriage, even when you get into it, and in general, there's a lot of unlearning, even from your parents anyway. So, like, what you saw your parents do, what you saw your parents didn't do, how they did show up, how they didn't show up, you still have a lot of unlearning to do. And so, I'm saying, if you say marriage is desirable, and I want to be a husband or I want to be a wife, I just wonder where that comes from. Where is that rooted in? And it's not a question; it's just more of a thought.
I want to echo what Tony said. Also, not only do folks be focused on trying to be a wife, but especially if you're coming from a Christian-based lens, folks be focused on being a husband and not even knowing what that really
I
means.
agree with that last thing that Tony just said. Sorry. So they don't.
Right.
She's writing a TED talk, by the way, but she said so they don't necessarily prioritize a healthy relationship, and I agree with
that's what I was saying.
I literally agree with everything you're saying, Tony, because I do believe we should have, like, more than anything, we should like. I just didn't think I didn't think we had to say it, right? But I definitely wholeheartedly agree that we. But now I'm learning. Not just in this conversation, but just in life. You do need to say, I want a healthy relationship too.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
But I mean, what
I
was trying to say is that's the point I was trying to make. Like, because it's the problem is, or the misconception is, that it's just women, but men go through this too. Like, like there, especially when you bring in men who are heavily tied to religion. We want to be a husband. Like for me, I grew up. This is the natural order, not even knowing what it all entails, what it's supposed to look like, etc. I just grew up in church. You get the job. You got to be a husband. Then you have the kids. Like the whole thing. I don't think that's the list.
Yeah.
And so with exactly what Tony's saying, without realizing what does it mean to have a healthy relationship, regardless of the title. And so.
Yeah.
I do want to push back on, like echo what Dr. Mike said, but also push back a little bit. Not push, but also say, I would always navigate, and I think Elise said it earlier too. I got feedback about things I might be doing wrong, right? Or things I should try. At the end of the day, my wife is the rater. She rates it.
Yeah.
Like that, and we get it twisted. We want to look at stuff people post on social media. I want to look at what my friend says. At the end of the day, if I'm asking the question, am I being a good husband? My wife is the rater. She's the only one I need to impress. She's the only one who needs to evaluate me. She has the scale, right? Like because that's who I would want to be okay with my job. That's who I want. And so the problem comes in. I will also say this. I think it's very important, and I've echoed this before, as a man, to have someone of the opposite sex around you that can echo the mindset of women. And the same thing vice versa. As a woman, have somebody around you that's platonic, whether it's an older brother, an uncle, a male best friend, who can echo you would assume that kind of speaks in the mindset of that you can bounce ideas off of. Because if I only talk to John and Mike about a complaint or situation dealing with my wife or what, etc., they're not women. They've never been in women. And even from it took me a while to even grasp this. Even from the very basis of understanding the hormonal challenges and changes of a woman's body during their cycle and the mindset that they're in, and understanding it. Yeah, I can understand it. I can hear it. But hearing from one of my friends who's a woman saying, T, you'll never be able to understand. You will never be able to comprehend what your wife or girlfriend, whatever, is going through during that time that might have led to a frustration point. And that question is valid, it's relative. And I didn't think it was. And like I just thought, oh, that she's just saying that, oh, whatever it is. Until you get married and realize, oh no, that's a thing. Like it's legit. Like asking the same question with some women during that time, and when she's going through these changes, and asking that same question later, it'll change the whole entire conversation.
Yeah.
So
I want to say a special thank you to our other guest, Tony Michelle, who has to sign off now.
Sure.
She was. We didn't know she was going to be on with us, but she decided to give a guest appearance. So thank you so much, Tony, for your time, giving your time, and you have some amazing typing skills as well. Because I think you were able to talk as fluidly as I'm able to. Like you were typing as quickly as I was writing. I mean, as you was writing, I was like, Lord, I know her hands got to be sore. She's like, and another thing. I'm just kidding. I love you, Tony. Love you, Tony.
And another thing.
as we wrap though, I think there was a lot of fruitful conversations from this. I really do, because I do feel like one of the things that we need to say that I think I love that Tony said was that stop cussing me out, Tony. That she said was that healthy relationships do need to be stated. Like it needs to be said. Yeah. It needs to be like literally unpacked, I guess, more than we thought. And the other point is the serial wives. I want to be a wife more than I want to be like fulfill the role of wife, or I want to be a husband more than I want to fulfill the role of husband. These are things also I believe to look out for in a dating scenario. We talked about both femininity and masculinity can be blended within a male and female. Like it's not just women have this and men have that. Like, and I think what I loved about what Terrence said was, we need to allow, especially women, need to allow for men to be able to show that and not be so like, oh, the moment he does, oh, I can't believe him, he's a weak man, and because they will exploit you. You do a little bit too much crying, right? So like finding the balance of I want to show this to you. Is it safe though? And I think that's the thing that men are always trying to figure out. And then even Calida saying, I can't show up as my full self. We're saying, girl, you better show up as your full self. Let them people know what you do, how you roll, how you move. And if they don't like it, they can keep it pushing. They're not going to ever be ready for it. There was a lot of fruitful things, a lot of nuggets I got out of this conversation. I really, really appreciate Calida and Lejanika pouring on wisdom and like letting us hear from another view that wasn't our own. I think I would love to continue this throughout Women's History Month. Just the idea of having women like interject and give us more information so that we can be better armed as we navigate working with you women, right? Like working with women in general. So we really do appreciate, I don't speak for Mike and Terrence, but Terrence and Mike, you can speak for yourselves, but I really appreciate you guys taking your time. I know it's a lot more time than we said, but we appreciate y'all.
I could have did the show without them. It's okay.
Oh, this is awkward.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, that was words by Terrence alone and no one else. Mike, did you have anything, bro?
No, I appreciate y'all. We need y'all. We need y'all opinion. For sure. Now, I'm talking about not just y'all here, but like women in general. Like we need y'all opinion. We need y'all on this earth in general. So in order for us to like work together, right, in all different types of relationships, whether in marriage, whether in friendships, whatever like that, we need y'all feedback. And
that's why I'm glad I'm an advocate for women. I'm glad I've been doing this work in these streets for so long. I've been like right alongside Terrence. I've been advocating, waiting silently, letting them speak, and going ahead of me. I've been advocating for them. So this is just something that I do, guys. It's nothing special. I don't want to highlight myself. It's not about me. It's really about the women. Okay.
Taking off of the glasses and the leaning forward.
Guys, thank y'all so much for tuning in to the Relentlessly Real podcast. All right, my name is Moisturizer today. And everybody can sign off as you feel so fit. Go ahead.
Yeah, actually, my name is Lucky Charms for today.
Lucky Charms. I like it. I like it. I like it. Teresa?
And hypothetically speaking, right? So,
here we go.
Never.
Here we go.
Yeah. Don't you dare say nothing about my sister's sex life.
hypothetically, I did want to end the show with a surprise. John, I also played the violin and
You gonna grab it? Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
I would have loved to hear that. And Calida and go ahead.
Yeah.
Arts
Street
agitator.
sweeper over here, signing off.
Go ahead,
Arts agitator Calida signing off. It was an honor to hang out with y'all tonight and have this conversation.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. Shut your mouth, Terrence. Thank you guys so much for checking out the Valencia Real Podcast. We'll see y'all